Well, I'd like to welcome Tom Neumark to Good Morning Frederick, a concerned citizen, very involved in kind of all things Board of Education, and we're going to talk about that now. Welcome to Good Morning Frederick, Tom.
Thanks so much for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, there seems to be a lot of stuff happening at the Board of Education, and I know you're going to kind of give us the high level view.
Yeah.
We've had some new people join. This was an election year for Board of Education. We brought in a few new people. So, what is happening with FCPS?
Sure. So, just recently, there's been another controversy over that policy 443 that allows boys into girls' bathrooms and on their sports teams. And there's a dad that is scheduled to speak tonight about it. In addition to some issues with that another parent, I should say, another substitute teacher raised last meeting, which was books in the library that were highly sexually explicit. She read it aloud. She was very shocked as a substitute teacher to find that this book was in our library. So that plus the overall just academic challenges that Frederick County Public Schools are facing. We have a 75% failure rate in Algebra 1 right now across the board. And when you dig into different groups, different ethnicities, 90% of the Hispanic students are failing that course, which is really sad. So a lot of stuff to talk about and just a lot of need for improvement in our local schools.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I think, one of the things I've always said is that, the more involved you become in not only your own school through the PTA and through other volunteering, but certainly with Board of Education, it's so important if you can to advocate for your child because the on the broad sense, no one is doing it. And once you start digging in, you realize there may be some things happening that, you wouldn't want to happen in the public school system. I know a lot of people who have pulled their kids into private school because of some of these policies and the lack for FCPS to sometimes even listen to
Right.
other parents' views and even trying to shut down some of the Board of Education members. It's disappointing and a little disheartening.
It
So,
is.
what can Frederick, citizens of Frederick do? Whether or not even they have children in Frederick County Public Schools, it's so important if you want a good community that the schools are raising good kids or not raising, giving a good basis for some of our students.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is to find other like-minded parents. Certainly, folks can contact me through you, and start to realize that a lot of parents have the same concerns. Often, what happens is a parent will raise a concern to someone in the school system, and they'll be told something along the lines of, "Well, you're like the only one that complained about this." And sometimes they don't realize the parents are all talking to each other. It's like, no, actually, there's 10 other moms and dads that are concerned about this too, right? So find like-minded folks, and then, you can show up at Board of Education meetings, show up at the budget hearings. We are spending almost $1 billion a year just in the operating budget. That's what was proposed this year. And, with all that spending, our SAT scores as Frederick County are below the national average. And that's
Yeah.
crazy that we're spending so much, and other systems across the country are spending less and getting much better results. So something's not quite right with what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think too, and even when I was interviewing a lot of the candidates before the last election, one of the concerns, the questions that was raised was that it was almost $1 billion, even then, 980 million, I think. And when you're not getting results, the one thing I know for sure, because if you look at school districts like in New Jersey and Baltimore, they're spending a ton of money
Yeah.
spending a ton of money per student
Yeah.
and getting terrible results, and
Yes.
we seem to be falling in line with that. What do you think that the biggest issue is with that? I mean, I have my idea.
So
ideas that it gets gone into the black hole that is at the corner of Southeast Street and Carroll Street or whatever, South Street. I'm not really sure though.
it depends on the subject. So just to take the math, because I raised the algebra scores, a lot of the problem is that we are choosing to try to teach too many topics per year in all the grades leading up to algebra and in the algebra course itself. So what other countries do that have successful math programs is focus on a smaller number of topics per year that are truly mastered. And then that way, the next year you're not reteaching, 20 or 40 topics that you skimmed through because and kids only got half of them. They actually have all 20 topics that you taught and they really know them and they're ready for the 21st, 22nd, 23rd topic. So that's number one, is to do that. And to give you an idea of what the effects of that are. So in the nation of Singapore, which is the top achieving country in the world for math, their average student, so if you put them in the United States school system, an average student in Singapore would be in the top 14% of math students. So think
Wow.
about that disparity, how far behind we are.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see a lot of these school systems in other countries, especially a lot of the Asian countries who are excelling in so many ways. Like there's
Yeah,
still physical education and kids are learning, other skills while they're at school and they're
yeah.
eating healthier lunches and it just I don't know uh really where the holdup comes other than I know it is a very big bloated system that
Yeah.
is very hard to turn. It's like a barge and you just can't make a quick U-turn.
Right.
It just takes so long to get and you got to get all these people on board with that. So I believe that's why a lot of
Yeah.
people have just given up and formed co-ops and
Yeah.
homeschool and private schools because it's just you feel defeated, I think a little bit.
Oh yeah, I mean the union is a huge problem, right? So if you want to get anything done, you got to have the union's blessing. The union has lobbyists in Annapolis. They're the ones that push this blueprint program that's going to financially bankrupt the state or result in taxes. Looks like the way it's going is lots more taxes, 1.6 billion, and that's
Mm,
just the next year. So it's going to
yeah.
get worse. And they have allowed local districts now to start taxing locally because they shifted some of the costs that they would normally have borne for teachers' pensions and other benefits to the local districts and said it's your problem now, but you can raise taxes too. So we're unfortunately in this death spiral of taxes, which we've seen happen in other states where, Virginia can get this job done better than we do for less money. Why would I live in Maryland? Because I can move
Mm.
just across the river to Virginia and get higher SAT scores on average, higher everything, better teacher salaries, but still less spending per kid. So why would I stay here and be overtaxed, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is really a tough one, and we're losing a lot of great teachers to other counties.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a top-heavy budget, but that's
it
I have
is.
not looked through the budget at all, but you just have to look at some of the salaries that are downtown,
Yeah.
and it's bloated. It's
Well,
just it's not trickling down, certainly even to the teachers' aides, the people in the actual schools, and definitely not to the students.
oh,
When
100%.
yeah, when did you start? I mean, I remember hearing your name with Frederick Classical Charter School way
Correct.
back in the day when
Yeah.
you guys were, I believe, just petitioning to allow that school to happen.
Hmm.
And what got you involved in education here in Frederick County?
Sure. It started when I was living in Montgomery County. My wife started out as a teacher there, and she was looking at her math curriculum and saying, "There's not a lot of math in this." And I started looking at the science, and I said, "There's not a lot of science in this." And that's what started my interest. This was 20 some years ago.
Oh
And
wow.
I couldn't believe. So I started talking to the school officials there. And I said, "Well, you have science that doesn't have a lot of science content in it. I must be missing this. It must be somewhere else. Like this is your online thing." Like, no, no, that's what we teach. And I'm like, well, so I reeled off 5 or 10 topics that other schools taught other places. I said, usually these kids will learn like Celsius, Fahrenheit, started listing it. And they're like, oh, no, no, we don't do that. We're into conceptual learning. What do you mean conceptual learning? Well, like the Music Man, where they have the think method. Remember that old film where they don't actually
Yeah.
learn to play the instruments, but they get the concept of it? That was kind of what they were doing for math and science. It was all about the
Uh,
concept. So
uh
that's what launched me into it.
That is really crazy. How so 20 years later, what are your thoughts about what is going on in Frederick County?
I mean, it's the same old, same old. They haven't. They talk about change a lot, but they're not. They say every year we don't have enough money, but then they increase the budget higher than the rate of enrollment and inflation combined. They've done this for decades. So it doesn't make any sense. You can't make the claim that you don't have enough money. We spend more than all but one country. The United States does per people and overall. And there's no way that they can claim that they don't have enough money and Maryland's on the higher end of American spending. So there's just no excuse for it. Bottom line is a lot of this is formed in education schools. They teach them very fanciful, trendy ideas about teaching and learning. So instead of teaching them like scientifically based reading instruction that does phonics and many other things, but phonics is kind of one of the key elements, they teach them this whole language approach and this balanced literacy approach that doesn't work. Now,
Yeah.
Maryland has fortunately said, we're going to change that, but you still have teachers that, they've been doing it for a while and don't want to change, and they're here in Frederick County. So it's a bit
Yeah.
of a battle.
Well, all I gotta say is, parents out there, you should open your eyes and attend some of these school board meetings. Hear what is being put out there. Talk to other parents. You can love the school your kids are in. Your kids can be very, very successful. But at the end of the day, if they're not learning what they need to be successful post year 12, then that's a bad time to discover that they
Yeah,
haven't learned
yeah,
what they need. So I
exactly.
say get involved, start at your local school level, PTA, volunteer, be in the classroom, listen to what's happening. I guarantee you, as soon as you step foot in that school, you will hear things that you never knew about. And you have to advocate for your child. If your child is struggling, do not sit back and wait for somebody to contact you. Get on it right away. Again, the every day that you wait is really harming your child in the sense that they're not getting what they need, and FCPS needs to provide that. So
Yeah.
that's my little soapbox. But if you
So
want, I will make sure we get you Tom's details. He's great to advocate. He's a great sounding board, and he's very involved, as you can tell, the last 20 years here in Frederick County and hopefully for a long time to come. Thank you so much.
oh, thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it and happy to talk with anybody.